Hello dear students, good morning. So last class we studied about surface chemistry, and in surface chemistry also we know what is adsorption and what are the factors affecting adsorption, what are the types of adsorption. Next here we are going to discuss another part of surface chemistry, that is colloidal state. So what is this colloidal state? You know, it is mixture. So mixture is, it is the collection of two or more substances, that is pure substances or impure substances. So collection of different substances in any proportion, that is known as your mixture. And mixtures generally in a mixture bears all the properties of its components. And these mixtures are again classified into two types. One is homogeneous mixture, another heterogeneous mixture. So homogeneous mixture is uniform throughout, and that is also known as your solution. And another heterogeneous mixture. So in the heterogeneous mixture there are different forms: solid form, liquid form and gaseous form. But one type of heterogeneous mixture which actually looks like this is homogeneous, and but actually that is heterogeneous, and generally that is taken as colloidal states, that are known as your colloids. So whenever we prepare some solutions, the solutions are classified into the Thomas Graham classified the solutions into different types. The solution of sodium chloride, that is glucose, in water, that are known as your true solutions. And the solutions of sodium chloride in benzene, or soap in water, or starch or clay, all this. So when some starch is added in water or clay is added in water, and what it also forms a mixture, but that mixture is not a homogeneous mixture. So that mixture is known as a colloidal solution. So in this way, these are known as your colloidal solutions. So colloidal solutions are one type of heterogeneous mixture. And another, for the particles, in colloidal solution, the particles cannot be seen easily through our naked eye. And another type of mixture, that is a heterogeneous, that are known as your suspensions. So where the particles can be easily seen, that are known as your suspensions. In this way, when we tell about solutions, the solutions are generally classified into three types. One is known as true solution, another known as colloids, or colloidal solution, and another known as suspension. So depending on the particle size, these are classified into different types. The particles of these true solutions are called crystalloids. These are the particles. Particles are called crystalloids. And colloidal solution, the particles are called colloids, and suspension, that are called suspensoids. So here the particle size of crystal is less than 1 millimicron, or less than 1, we can say less than 1 nanometer. 1 nanometer, that are known as your crystalloids, that can pass from original filter paper. And colloids, where the particle size is between 1 nm to 1000 nm, or we can say 10 angstrom to 10,000 angstrom. Okay, so this is the particle size. And here the suspension has a particle size greater than 10,000 angstrom, or we can say 1000 nm. So depending upon this particle size, these are classified into different types. For example, the solutions of clay, the solution of ferric hydroxide, aluminum hydroxide, all these are colloidal solution. While that of sodium chloride in water, or glucose in water, or urea in water, so that generally form a true solution. And the solution or the mixture of calcium carbonate in water or sand in water, that generally forms a suspension. So here our aim is to study about these colloidal solutions. So next come to colloidal solution. In this colloidal solution, there are two phases. This colloidal solution consists of two phases. One is known as dispersed phase, and another known as dispersion medium. So one is known as dispersed phase, another known as dispersion medium. So dispersed phase, which forms the colloidal solution, the particle which undergo dissolve, or we can say which forms the dispersed, that is known as the dispersed phase, and dispersion medium, in which the particles undergo dispersed. So the medium in which the particles undergo dispersion, that are known as the dispersion medium. So it is just like the solvent, and it is just like the solute in a solution. So it is just like this first phase, this is just like the solute, and this is just like the solvent in a solution. So in a colloidal solution also, there are two phases, that is dispersed phase and dispersion medium. Suppose a soap is dissolved in water. So soap is dispersed phase and the dispersion medium is water. Similarly, suppose air, generally carbon particles are there, so smoke is there. So smoke generally contains the carbon particles. So the carbon particles are dispersed in air. Carbon particles are dispersed in air. In this way, air is dispersion medium, while carbon particles are dispersed phase. Okay, so depending on what is the state of dispersed phase and dispersion medium, the colloidal particles are classified generally into 8 types, depending on the state, dispersed phase and the dispersion medium. The state of dispersed phase and dispersion medium, these are classified into 8 types. Actually, the dispersed phase and dispersion medium both are gases, that is air mixture, that is actually a true solution. So dispersed phase, and dispersion medium. Examples. Okay, so first here I want to list all these dispersed phase, dispersion medium examples. Then, okay. So these are examples of some colloids. So dispersed phase and dispersion medium, if both are solid and solid, that are called solid salts. Solid salts, example minerals and gemstones. So you know the ruby, different types of gemstones are there, and solid, liquid. So dispersed phase is solid and dispersion medium is liquid. These are paints, muddy water. Muddy water, mud is the dispersed phase and water is a liquid, that is the dispersion medium. The solid, liquid, that are called generally salts. And solid gas. Solid gas, these are known smoke, dust storm, dust are solid particles, carbon solid particles. So air is the dispersion medium. In this way, these are known as aerosols. Similarly, liquid, dispersed phase liquid, dispersion medium solid. These are examples of. These are also known as gels. Butter, jelly, boot polish, these are some examples. Then liquid and liquid, these are known as emulsions. These are known as emulsions. Examples, milk, medicines, etc. And liquid, dispersed phase is liquid and dispersion medium is gas. These are also known as aerosols. Example, fog, cloud, etc. And dispersed phase is a gas and dispersion medium is solid. Example, pumice stone, foam, rubber, etc. And dispersed phase is a gas and dispersion medium is a liquid. Some examples are soda water, whipped cream, etc. So these are some examples of colloidal systems or colloids. Okay, so this is solid foam. These are also called foams. Foam type. Okay. So these are some examples of colloidal systems. Next, these colloidal solutions or the colloidal systems are again classified into different types depending upon. So these are classified into different types depending upon appearance, depending upon the interaction of dispersed phase and dispersion medium. Okay, so these are classified into different types. Classification. Classification of colloidal system. Colloidal solution. So on appearance, these are classified generally into two types. One is sol and another is known as gel. So sol is that which is more fluid-like structure, which has fluid-like structure, and gel is that which has rigid-like structure. Okay, different jellies you know, that are your gels, where solid part is more than that of liquid part, and sol, here the liquid part is more than that of a solid part. Okay, so sol is which is more fluid-like structure, and in this sol, if water is the dispersion medium, then that is known as your hydrosol. If alcohol is the dispersion medium, known as alkosol. If benzene is the dispersion medium, that is known as your benzosol. And similarly, if air is the dispersion medium, then that is known as your aerosol. So in this way, there are different types of salts. And you know the toothpaste, these are some examples of gels. So more common colloidal system here we are going to discuss is about salts, that is which has fluid-like structure. Okay. Next, these colloidal solutions again classified depending upon the interaction of dispersed phase and dispersion medium, that are classified into two types. One is so depending upon the interaction, these are classified into two types. One is lyophilic colloid and lyophobic colloids. lyophilic colloids and another lyophobic colloids. So lyophilic and lyophobic. Lyo means solvent, philic loving. So the colloidal system where both the dispersed phase and dispersion medium has more affinity, generally that are known as your lyophilic colloids. And if the dispersed phase and dispersion medium has less affinity or no affinity, and that are generally known as lyophobic colloids. If the solvent or the dispersion medium is water, then this term is known as hydrophilic and hydrophobic. So we can also, if water is the dispersion medium, then we can say hydrophilic and hydrophobic. Hydrophobic. And generally among these two, these lyophilic colloids are easy to prepare, while the lyophobic colloids are difficult to prepare, and these are reversible nature, these are irreversible in nature. So these are more stable colloids, these are less stable colloids. On applying heat or on applying some other electrolyte, these do not undergo coagulation easily. On applying heat or on applying some electrolyte, these undergo coagulation easily. In this way, these are some difference between lyophilic and lyophobic colloids. The colloidal solution of mud, the colloidal solution of gelatin, starch, gum, or colloidal solution of gelatin, starch, gum, these are lyophilic colloids. While the colloidal solution of metals like gold, silver, etc., these are lyophobic colloids. So, colloidal solutions of metals like silver, gold, etc., these are lyophobic colloids, while the colloidal solutions of gelatin, starch, gum, etc., these are hydrophilic or lyophilic colloids. Again, depending on this particular particle size, the colloidal solutions are again classified into three types. Again classified into three types. One is micromolecular colloids. So again, depending on molecular size, these are classified into three types. One is micromolecular colloids. Another macromolecular colloids, and another associated colloids. Okay, so again these are classified into three types depending on their molecular size. So these macromolecular colloids are also known as multimolecular colloids. So here the particle size is small, so the different particles aggregate themselves to form the colloidal size particles. For example, the colloidal solutions of gold and silver comes under this category. So the atomic size of gold and the atomic size of sulfur, or the molecular size of sulfur, is less than 10 to the power minus 6 meter, that is that of the colloidal particle size. And in the colloidal solution, these particles aggregate themselves, they come to. So next macromolecular or multimolecular colloids. So some examples are the colloidal solutions of gold and sulfur. Okay, so the particle size is smaller. This particle size come closer to each other. So come closer as a result, and come closer and they aggregate it themselves to form the colloidal size particles. Next come to macromolecular colloids. Here the colloidal particles has already larger size. These are of colloidal particle size, and when these dissolves in water, they form macromolecular colloids. The colloidal solutions of proteins, amino acids comes under these. They have high molecular mass, so larger size. In this way they form macromolecular colloids. And another associated colloids. Actually they have smaller size and they act as electrolyte in low concentration, but at high concentration they different molecules they aggregate themselves to form associated colloidal particles, also called micelles. These are also called micelles. So generally the solutions of soap and detergent comes under this. So soap and detergents have generally long chain alkyl groups and one long chain. So soaps are generally these are sodium salts of higher fatty acids, and detergents are the sodium salts of higher long chain sulfonic acids. So the soaps are long chain sodium salts of long chain carboxylic acid, and detergents are generally sodium or potassium salts of long chain sulfonic acids or benzene sulfonates. In this way, these associated colloids have generally a larger hydrophobic part and another a hydrophilic part. So due to this anion, this part is hydrophilic or this part is hydrophobic, and at a certain concentration all these soap molecules, they generally aggregate themselves to form a micelle. Generally they aggregate themselves to form micelles of colloidal particle size. So in the micelle, so in this way as they aggregate themselves to form these micelles, that's why these are also called associated colloids. So here different parts. So in this way these are the long chain parts, and this is generally hydrophobic part, and this part is so this is CO minus, here CO minus part, so negative part, one part is negative and another part is your positive, Na plus. In this way, one part is your positive part and another part is your negative part. So up to this is hydrophobic part and this part is hydrophilic part. In this way, at a certain concentration, all these molecules come closer and they form a colloidal solutions, colloidal particle size of colloids that are known as your associated colloids. And when some dark particles, when some cloth containing dark or grease is dissolved, is dipped in this the colloidal solution of soap and detergent, then all these micelles generally contain the greasy part or oil part here, and when excess of water is added, these dust particles again wash away. So in this way, these dust particles are washed away due to formation of these associated colloids. Again, these colloidal particles are again classified into two types depending upon the charge of colloidal particles, that is positively charged colloids, again classified into two types depending on charge. depending on charge of colloidal particles, that is positively charged colloids and negatively charged colloids. Positively charged colloids and negatively charged colloids. These are again classified into two types. The colloidal solution of metal hydroxide like aluminum hydroxide, ferric hydroxide, all these hydroxides and some basic dye. These are positively charged colloids, while the colloidal solution of sulfides like arsenic sulfides, colloidal solutions of metals like gold, silver, and the colloidal mud water, clay, all these are generally negatively charged colloids. So in this way, these colloidal solutions are classified into different types depending on appearance, depending on molecular size, depending on charge, and depending on the interaction of the dispersed phase and dispersion medium. Next come to preparation of colloidal solution. Preparation. So in general, there are two ways of preparation. One is known as there are two ways of preparation. In one phase, if the particle size is larger, that is converted into smaller size, and another, if the particle size is smaller, then by some chemical processes, generally these are converted into larger size of colloidal size. So in this way, this preparation of colloidal system is generally of two types, and these are again classified into different types. So one is dispersion method, another is condensation method. Dispersion method and another condensation method. In dispersion method, maximum mechanical method is there. One is mechanical dispersion method. In mechanical dispersion method, there are different types. One, mechanical dispersion method. In mechanical dispersion method, the colloidal particles, so the large size particles are generally taken in a metallic rotator. So there are two metallic plate rotator which are moved by applying electricity in opposite direction. So when some colloidal particles are when different large size particles are taken in this metallic disc rotator and metallic disc rotator and on applying electricity, so these are converted into the particle size, the colloidal particle size. In this way, by mechanical dispersion method, these colloidal solutions are prepared. And another is Bradish-Arc method. In Bradish-Arc method, In Bradish-Arc method, generally the colloidal solutions of different metals, that is gold, silver, that are generally prepared. So here the dispersion medium, what is the dispersion medium? That is taken in a ice cold bath, and what is the dispersed phase? That is the metallic rods. Two metallic rods are immersed in it, and when electricity is supplied, and then due to application of this electricity, these metals are converted into vapors, and when these come in contact with the ice cold solution of dispersion medium, and again they condensed to form the particle size of this colloidal solution. So in this way the metals the colloidal solutions of metals are prepared. That is known as your Brady's arc method. And another method is known as your peptidization method. Peptidization method. So the process by which a precipitate is converted into a colloidal system. That means precipitate is generally in suspension form. So precipitate is converted into the colloidal solution, colloidal system. The large size of precipitate is converted into colloidal system. That is known as your peptidization process. So generally the iron oxide, the ferric oxide, so when freshly prepared ferric hydroxide is taken, or when water is added to ferric chloride, when water is added to ferric chloride, it gives precipitate of ferric hydroxide, and when some amount of hydrochloric acid is added to it, then it forms then the precipitate of ferric hydroxide are converted into the colloidal solutions of ferric hydroxides. So that process is known as your peptidization process. Similarly, so that process is known as your peptidization process. So these are some examples, these are some processes by which large size particles are converted into colloidal particle size. Next method is condensation method. In condensation method, the particle size or the dispersed phase has smaller size than that of the colloidal particles. So in this way, by using some chemical method, generally these particles are converted into colloidal system. Some examples are oxidation process, some are reduction process or solvent exchange process. So there are different processes. For example, when hydrogen sulfide undergo oxidation in presence of nitric acid, H2S undergo oxidation in presence of nitric acid, it forms the colloidal solution of sulfur. Okay, similarly, suppose there is gold chloride, aric chloride, when treated with stannous chloride, it forms gold, and stannic chloride undergo and it forms stannic chloride. In this way, the solution of gold, the colloidal solution of gold is prepared. So this is the reduction process. This is the oxidation process. So another the solvent exchange process. So there are different processes by which generally the colloidal solutions are prepared. One example, oxidation, and another reduction processes. There is also some processes, that is your hydrolysis process. For example, so when boiling water is added to ferric chloride, it forms boiling water is added to ferric chloride, it undergo hydrolysis to form colloidal solutions of ferric hydroxides. So these are the processes by which colloidal solutions are prepared. So after this preparation of this colloidal solution, when this colloidal solution is prepared, still it contains some impurities of crystalloids. So the process by which the colloidal solutions are separated from the crystalloids, that are known as your purification of colloids. So purification of colloids. So the process by which the crystalloids are separated from the colloidal solutions, or the colloidal solutions are separated from the crystalloids, that is known as your dialysis process. So one process is known as dialysis. Actually, these colloidal particles that do not pass through Boltzmann membrane or vegetable membrane, whereas the crystalloids that can pass through Boltzmann membrane or animal membrane. So, Thomas Graham first time separated the crystalloids from these colloids by using this dialysis process, and the instrument used for this dialysis process is known as your dialyzer. That is known as your dialyzer. So there was a cylindrical container which has two opening and which is tagged with this Boltzmann membrane. That is tagged with your Boltzmann membrane, and two openings are there, and this container was kept. This container was taken in another container where we can supply continuous water, and where continuous water supply is there, and water supply and removal of water is also takes place. So a cylindrical container where two openings are there. One end is tagged with a Boltzmann membrane, and this is kept in another container which contains water, and continuously water flow takes place. So when continuously the flow of water takes place, what are the colloidal solutions present here? What are the colloidal solutions and crystalloids present here? So the crystalloids now pass through this Boltzmann membrane, and these are excreted. So these are removed. So these are excreted or these are removed, and here flow of water takes place. So in this process is known as your dialysis, but this is a prolonged process. It takes so many days to separate. In this cell, to hasten or to increase the rate of dialysis, some electricity is applied. If some electricity is applied, positive and negative electrodes are used. In this case, by using electricity, this process can be increased, and this process is known as your electrodialysis. And if the crystalloid contains different ions, that is cation and anion, then the ions move towards oppositely charged electrodes. In this way, the dialysis process is increased. And another process of purification process is your ultrafiltration. In ultrafiltration process, so generally ordinary filter paper has large pore size, and this can pass the crystalloids as well as the colloids. But when these ordinary filter paper are dipped in the solution of gelatin, then made hardened by dipping in formaldehyde, then the pores are blocked and the small pores are there formed, and that can only pass the crystalloids but not the colloids. So the filter paper which is prepared by soaking in gelatin and then with formaldehyde, that is known as your ultrafilters. And separation of colloidal particles from from crystalloids by using these ultrafilters is known as your ultrafiltration. And another process that is known as your centrifugation. Another process that is known as your centrifugation. So by centrifugation process also the crystalloids are separated from the colloidal solutions. So these are the different processes by which the colloidal solutions are purified from crystalloids. Next, another part of this chapter. Next come to what is the properties of colloidal solutions. So the first thing, these are heterogeneous in nature. Next, colloidal particles when observed through powerful microscope, then it is found that these colloidal particles are always in zigzag motion. So these are always in zigzag motion, constant rapid motion. So due to this constant rapid motion, this is called the mechanical property of colloidal particles. So due to this zigzag rapid motion, these colloidal particles are non-settling in nature. So although these are heterogeneous, although these are heterogeneous in nature, these are non-settling in nature because these are non-settling in nature because of Brownian movement. So always in zigzag motion, that is called Brownian movement. Brownian movement. So due to which these colloidal particles are always in rapid motion and non-settling in nature. Next, another property of these colloidal particles, that is the optical property. Optical property. So the colloidal particles are generally larger size than that of the wavelength of light. So when light passes through these colloidal solutions, its path is illuminated. So we can see its path. So when light passes through a true solution, this path cannot be illuminated. But when light passes through a colloidal solution, its path is illuminated. That is due to scattering of light. And the scattering of light takes place why? Because the particle size of colloidal particle size have larger than that of the wavelength of light. So when light falls on it, so the colloidal particles scatter the light. So in this way, the colloidal particles due to the scattering, its path is illuminated. And when a convergent light passes through a colloidal solution, then its path is illuminated by then it forms a cone-shaped light. It forms a cone-shaped path, and that is called Tyndall cone. That is called Tyndall cone. So when a convergent light is passed through a colloidal solution, it forms a cone-shaped light, that is called Tyndall cone. And when light passes through the colloidal solution, its path is illuminated due to scattering of light, and this effect is called Tyndall effect. This effect is called Tyndall effect. And this is the optical property. Okay. Next, as you know, these colloidal particles, all total the colloidal solution is neutral, but these colloidal particles either they carry positive charge or negative charge. So when electricity is applied through this colloidal solution, the particles move either towards cathode or move towards anode. So the movement of these colloidal particles towards oppositely charged electrodes on application of electricity is known as cataphoresis or electrophoresis is known as electrophoresis. If moved towards cathode, known as cataphoresis. If moved towards anode, known as anaphoresis. Okay, so another property that is known as electrophoresis. So the movement of colloidal particles towards oppositely charged electrodes on application of electricity is known as electrophoresis. So generally the negatively charged colloidal particles such as the sulfides and the metal, that is the colloidal particles of gold, silver, or etc. move towards, as these are negatively charged, they move towards positively charged electrode and there they precipitate or coagulate. Similarly, the positively charged colloidal particles that move towards on the negatively charged electrode, that is towards negatively charged electrodes. So in this way there they precipitate. So that process is known as your electrophoresis. Next, another property of colloidal particle is that they undergo coagulation. Colloidal particles, they undergo coagulation. So, the aggregation of all colloidal particles on application now, the aggregation of all colloidal particles to form the large size particles of suspension size is known as your coagulation or precipitation. It is called coagulation or precipitation, also known as flocculation. It is also known as flocculation. So this flocculation or coagulation can be done either by heating the colloidal solution or by adding some electrolyte to the solution. Okay, so if some electrolyte is added, then coagulation takes place. For example, when to milk you add some electrolyte of citric acid, then it undergo coagulation. Then colloidal particles undergo coagulation. Similarly, in muddy water, it takes so many times to settle all the colloidal particles. But when some alum is used in muddy water, then all this mud undergo coagulation. They undergo all small particles aggregate and they aggregate and they settles. That process is called coagulation. Okay, so this coagulation is generally takes place either by heating or by adding some electrolyte. So this coagulation power depends on what type of electrolyte used. If a negatively charged what type of electrolyte is used? For the negatively charged colloids are generally coagulated by the positive charge, that is the cations of electrolyte, and the positively charged electrolytes, positively charged colloids are generally coagulated by negatively charged ions. Okay, so positively charged colloids coagulated by negative charged ions and negatively charged colloids are generally coagulated by positively charged ions, and the coagulation power depends on the valency. Depends on the valency of ions. That is known by Hardy-Skal's rule. So higher is the valency of the ion, higher is the valency of the ion, higher is the valency of the ion, more is its coagulation power. Valency of ion, more is its coagulation power. More is its coagulation power. So higher is the valency of the ion, more is its coagulation power. Okay. So for example, suppose we consider about ferric hydroxide. So ferric hydroxide, this is a positively charged colloid. For it requires negatively charged ions. Suppose Cl minus, carbonate minus, and Fe4 minus. So suppose different ions and phosphate ions are there, then this ferric hydroxide colloidal solution is more easily coagulated by this ferrocyanide ions. Okay, so in this way, because it has higher charge. Similarly, if we consider about arsenic sulfide, that is AH2S3 arsenic sulfide, and this is a negatively charged colloid, and this is more easily coagulated by, suppose ions are given Al3 plus, Mg2 plus, and Na plus. It is actually coagulated by all of these, but more easily coagulated by Al3 plus ion. Okay, aluminium ion, because it has valency is more. So the minimum amount of electrolyte that should be added, to a particular amount of colloidal solution to undergo coagulation, that is known as your flocculation value. So higher is the flocculation value, or less is its coagulation power, or less is the flocculation value, higher is its coagulation power. Al3 plus has more coagulation power, flocculation power, but it has less flocculation value. Similarly, Na plus has higher flocculation value, but it has less coagulation power. So higher is the flocculation value, less is its coagulation power, and less is the coagulation power, higher is its flocculation value. So in this way, we can know what is the coagulation. And in some cases, it also requires not to coagulate, to prevent the colloidal solution from from coagulation. So in some cases, some hydrophilic or lyophobic colloids are added to them. So that is so a colloidal solution, a lyophilic colloid, which has more protective power, that is called the protecting power of the colloids. So sometimes we want to prevent the coagulation of colloidal solution, because maximum medicines are in colloidal form, and if the coagulation takes place, then it loses its activity. So in this way, not to decrease its activity, not to destroy its activity, sometimes it requires to prevent from the coagulation of colloidal solution. So for preventing the coagulation of colloidal solution, some additional colloidal particles, some additional colloids are added, and which can protect from the coagulation, and that colloids are generally lyophilic colloids, and that are also called protective colloids. So when some protective colloids are added to a lyophobic colloids or any colloidal solution, so that when we add some amount of electrolyte, its coagulation is prevented. And that is due to this addition of protective colloids. So gelatin, gum, these are some examples of protective colloids. And what is the protective colloid? What is the power of this protective colloid? It is determined by one term, that is known as your gold number. That is known as your gold number. Okay, so what is gold number? It is the number of milligrams of protective colloid which when added to 10 ml of colloidal solution, it can prevent from the coagulation by adding 1 ml of 10% sodium chloride solution. 1 ml of 10% sodium chloride solution. Okay, so it is so it is the milligrams of protective colloid which can prevent the coagulation of 10 ml of gold solution by adding 1 ml of 10% sodium chloride solution. So if to the gold solution, if sodium chloride is added, then it may undergo coagulation. But if some protective colloid is added, then it can prevent the coagulation. So the minimum milligrams of protective colloid which can prevent the coagulation, that is known as your gold number. And less is the value of gold number, more is its protective power. And higher the value of gold number, less is its protecting power. So lower the value of gold number, more is its protective power. Okay, so this is how you can protect the colloidal system. Next come to another type of colloidal solution where the dispersed phase and dispersion medium both are liquids. So the colloidal solution where the dispersed phase and dispersion medium both are liquids, that are known as emulsions. Okay. So emulsions are the colloidal system where the dispersed phase and dispersion medium both are liquids. Actually, this is the mixture of two immiscible liquid. And if the two miscible liquid, then that forms a true solution. And this is emulsion. Actually, this is the two immiscible liquids. And to make it mixable, generally, to keep it in colloidal system, generally some additional substance is added there or naturally added, and that are called emulsifying agents or emulsifiers. That are called emulsifying agents. Or emulsifiers. In naturally there are some emulsifiers is there. For example, in milk, the casein is the emulsifier. Similarly, some other cases, some emulsions, some other emulsifiers are added or emulsifying agents are added. And these emulsions are classified into two types. One is oil in water type. That is, and another So for water in oil type, generally represented as W upon O, and oil in water type generally represented as O upon W. So oil in water type and water in oil type. So in oil in water type means water is the dispersion medium and oil is the dispersed phase. Some examples are milk. Milk is an example of oil in water type. So here water contains the dispersion medium and Dm is water, and what are the fats? The fats are soluble in milk. So the dispersed phase air fat. The fat globules, these are present in water. So this is oil in water type. Okay. Similarly, water in oil type. In water in oil type, the dispersion medium is oil, that is insoluble part, insoluble liquid, and the dispersed phase is water. Example, the moisturizer cream, moisturizer cream or moisturizer. So these are some examples of water in oil type and oil in water type emulsions. Okay, and what are the applications of these colloidal solutions? Colloidal solutions are applicable in various cases. So in maximum medicines in our body are generally more effective in colloidal form than that of any solution form or suspension form. So maximum medicines are in colloidal form. And these colloidal solutions are also used in froth flotation process for the concentration of the ore, and this colloidal system is also used in tanning industry. These are also used in the purification of water. So this colloidal system are also applicable in artificial rain, in sewage disposal. In all cases, this coagulation process or the colloidal systems have applications.